Okay, in Wheelock chapter 7, we are talking about third declension nouns. Third declension nouns. These are different from first and second declension, and we need to talk about the characteristics of these. And I'm not going to fib. These are harder than first and second declension nouns. One of the reasons is that the case endings can be different. Secondly, because it's difficult to determine the gender of a third declension noun. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. But let's just remind ourselves the characteristics of third declension nouns compared to first and second declension nouns. What makes a noun a first declension noun? If you remember from our earlier chapters, if the noun stem or the noun base ends with an A before the case endings are added, it is a first declension noun, and these are generally feminine. So, porta, right, there is the word for gate, or door, and portarum, there's that A vowel there that we are accustomed to seeing with first declension. Now, what makes a noun second declension? The noun stem or base ends with an O before adding case endings. Do recall, though, that sometimes the O weakens to U in some of the forms. So, amico was the original noun stem, but in the nominative we see amicus. There's that O weakened to U. But in the genitive plural, amicorum, there's our long O there. This is a masculine second declension noun. And then neuter second declension nouns, donum for gift. In the nominative, we see the O weakened to U. Remember that masculine second declension nouns in the nominative end with S, and that's their lexical form. Neuters end with M, donum. And then donorum, there's that O before the case ending. That O at the end of the stem. All right, now, what makes a noun or an adjective third declension? What makes it third declension? Here, the noun's stem or base ends with a consonant, to which case endings are added. Now, I do have a footnote here that we will find some stems that end with an I. They're called I stems. We'll meet those in another chapter. That's quite a few chapters away. Okay, but just a general rule here, we're looking for nouns whose stems end with a consonant, and then we're adding case endings to the consonant. The lexical form almost always obscures the real consonant, or the real base, or the real stem that ends with a consonant because of phonetic changes. We'll talk about a few of those in a moment. But if you want to learn the true stem of the noun when it's a third declension noun, you can't go to the nominative singular form, which is the lexical form. You have to go to the genitive singular form. In your vocab list, that's always going to be provided for you right after the nominative singular lexical form. You take the genitive singular form and you drop the case ending is, which is the genitive singular third declension case ending. So as an example here, I've got three nouns, amor and amoris, or actually amor and amoris. And then this is a masculine third declension noun. It means love. What do? The genitive is always the second form. I'm going to drop this is case ending, and I'm left with the stem amor. All right? Now, in this situation, the lexical form and the stem look the same. But you'll notice that with these other nouns, that's not the case. Pardon the pun. Carmen and Carmenis, our song or poem, the genitive singular is, I'm going to chop that off, and what I'm left with is the stem Carmen. Okay? So notice that Carmen and Carmin are not the same. Lexical form can obscure the real noun stem in third declension. Civitas and civitatis. Here we have state or citizenship as a masculine. Chop off the is ending. On the genitive, I have civitat, right? So that is my my noun stem. Notice then that civitas and civitat are different. Cannot go to the lexical form, which is nominative singular. to find that real stem. And then rex and regis, king. So what do I do with regis? I take the is, drop it. What's left is reg. Okay, and again, that is different than rex, right? So we want the stem, go to genitive singular, drop the case ending is, and you've got the real stem. And notice you've got these consonants here at the end of the stem. R, N, T, G. Okay, alrighty. So let's take a look here at the case endings as well. Now, nouns of third declension can be any gender, masculine, feminine, or neuter. Generally, they pattern into feminine for first declension and masculine and neuter for second declension, right? Here, all bets are off. What you will notice, though, I hope, is that the masculine and feminine forms pattern together in third declension. So they are going to be the same as each other. And then the neuter form will be mostly the same as the masculine feminine, but there will be some differences. And this is different from our second and first declension forms, if you recall, in second declension. And I've given you the second and first declension forms. In those, the masculine and the neuter tend to look like each other, and the feminines look different from the two of them. Okay, but with third declension, the masculine and feminines hang together. They are identical in their case endings, and the neuters are the ones that are slightly different from those. All right, so I've omitted the vocative in this chart, but I want you to be able to have in one place all of the case endings for first and second on the left, third declension on the right. So 2-1-2 refers to the declension pattern. 3-3 refers to the third declension pattern. And so let's just look at the endings here. So for nominative, it could be a final s, or I'm adding nothing to the noun's stem. Okay, the neuter, generally add nothing. Genitive, it's is and is. Dative, e and e with long I. Accusative, masculine and feminine, will have m. Now you do recall that from the m's over here in the accusative. Neuter, no case ending, and then ablative and e. Now I do want to point out something that we've seen about neuters, and that is that neuters in the nominative and accusative are always identical to each other. So if the neuter noun has no case ending in nominative, it will not in accusative singular. We'll see that on the plural side as well. What we've also seen is that with neuters, generally in second declension, the genitive and datives and ablatives look like each other, right? Notice I've got E, O, and O here. And that's also true with third declension. So my nominative and my masculines look the same. It just happens to be the case that the feminine looks like the masculine as well here. But I've got is, e, and a for genitive, dative, and ablative singular. All right? So the nominative and the accusative do not look the same here as a general rule. Now on the plural side, I have ace for masculine and feminine, nominative plural, third declension, and then a for neuter. Genitive, and notice that these are the same. Dative, ibis and ibis, and then accusative, ace and a. So notice that in masculine and feminine, these are the same as each other, ace, ace, but in neuters are always the same, nominative and accusative plural. And then in the ablative, ibis and ibis for all the genders there. Okay, so we have that similarity. Something else that also is the case is, remember, datives and ablatives usually look the same. Here, the dative and the ablative do not, right? E and A do not look the same, but over here, dative and ablative are the same, ibis and ibis. Over here, in first and second declension, dative and ablative for the masculines and neuters, those did look the same. With feminine, that's not the case. and in the plurals, they always look the same as each other. East, 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 east. Okay, so just recall some of the patterns here. All right, now, as I mentioned, the nominative singular lexical form often obscures the real noun stem due to some very common phonetic changes. And we want to talk about a few of those sorts of changes. We don't want to go through all the phonetic sort of irregularities in Greek, or excuse me, in Latin. Right now, that wouldn't be helpful. We'll try to introduce some of those as we go. But here are some important features. There's two here I want to talk about. And that is that if we're adding an S as the nominative singular case ending to a noun, and the noun stem ends with what's called a stop consonant. And a stop consonant is one where all of the airflow stops and then is released. Pa, the P sound. Pa, ba, the B sound, right? There you have to close your lips all the way to create it, and then the air stops for a moment and then is released. When we add the S to stop consonants, then there are some interesting predictable behaviors that happen in terms of sound changes. Now, I like to call this the principle of linguistic laziness, which is simply that our mouths tend to do what is the easiest thing to do, given the contact that parts of our mouth make with each other. So, I'm going to give you some terms that you maybe haven't heard before, and hopefully we'll be able to use these throughout our class together. And the word velar, dental, and labial have to do with where sounds are produced in the mouth. The velar region is that part of the top of your mouth that approaches the uvula, which is the little punching bag in the back. Okay, and the stop consonants that are produced there are the consonants k and g. Notice k and g are both produced in the same place and farther back. Dental consonants are produced with the tongue approaching the back of the top teeth. Ta and da, you'll notice your tongue is raising and hitting near the back of the teeth. Ta da, ta da. And then labials have to do with lips, and labials are formed by the lips coming together. Pa and ba, notice your lips are together. All right, now, when velars, dentals, or labials meet an S for the case ending, then we could get some interesting behavior. Actually, in the first two, nothing really changes in the last one. So any velar stop plus a sigma produces the X sound, ksa, ksa. And this makes sense, doesn't it? A k with a sa becomes ksa, and a g with a sa becomes ksa. Okay? So with reg, that's our stem for king, reg, when I add the nominative singular case ending, regs becomes regs. Okay? Now, this is interesting what happens with dental stops, the T and the D. When I add an S to one of those, I get S. What does that mean? Basically, in effect, the T and the D fall out. And my joke with my Greek students, because this happens in Greek as well, is that if dental means teeth, then this is a situation where the teeth fall out. Okay? Hopefully that never happens to you in real life, but sometimes teeth do fall out. So here's our word for virtue, worth. Virtut is the stem, and I'm adding an S to it. The T here is going to fall out before the S. Virtut becomes virtus. So we can imagine that Dante's Inferno is down here, and the T falls into the infernal fires. All right. And then with stop consonants, p and b, when we add an S, we get psa and psa. And this B will tend to take on what's called a voiceless quality, in that the vocal cords won't vibrate. We saw that with orbs, which is the word for city. Okay, that B is a P sound. All right. Now, that's one set of phonetic changes that can happen. and that will obscure the real stem sometimes. Now, there's some other situations where vowels can change in final syllables. Okay, so if you see a third declension noun and you look at the nominative, you look at the genitive, dative, or other forms, you may find that the vowel has changed, or the vowel in the stem is slightly different from the vowel in the nominative singular lexical form. And in particular, in two-syllable disyllabic stems, the final syllable I in the stem often shifts to an E in the nominative singular. All right. So looking at our example here from the word for song, Carmine. Okay. Here I have an I in the stem, and how do I know that Carmine is the stem? Because I take the genitive case ending, and I want to drop the is, right, and I get Carmine. But the nominative form has an E there in that two-syllable word in the final syllable. So Carmine becomes Carmen in the nominative. All right, so that's a fairly common vowel change. We're going to see that in a number of places. There are other vowel changes that happen. We won't take the time to look at those in this early chapter here. All right, so let's just read the forms here for rex, virtus, homo, and corpus. Okay, this is stem, or king, merit, man, and body. Now, what I want to ask you is to think along with me here with these forms. What is the stem of rex? Where would I go? Well, I go to the genitive singular, drop the is ending, and I'm left with reg, right? With virtus, what do I have here? I go to the genitive, drop the is, and I'm left with virtut, right? With homo, I have hominis, drop the is, and notice that my stem is homin, and that is different from the nominative form. They're quite different. And then corpus for body, drop the is ending of corporis, and what do I have? I have corpor, right? Corpor. Okay, so those are my stems. That's how you get that. All right, so let's read the forms here, and you get to see these third declension case endings in action. Okay, so with our nominative rex, so that would be king, regis, of the king. So rex would be the king, of the king. Regi, so to the king. Regem would be the king as the direct object. Rege, this could be with the king. Over here, reges, that's the kings, nominative. Regum, of the kings. Regibus, to the kings. Reges, accusative plural, the kings. I love the kings. And regibus, with the kings. All right. So you'll notice, by the way, that there are some similarities, some differences up here with our first and second declensions. Notice that, for example, that with genitive, we have orum, arum, orum. Here it's just right, without the or and the ar. All right. One of the other things that maybe you'll want to pay attention to here, I'll just maybe highlight in yellow here, these orum, okay, is that neuters end in an a in the nominative and accusative plural. This is the case with third declension just as well as with the first and second declension. Now, aside from that, there's not a lot in common. Here we have and Do you see that final m there? And here we have m here. But that pretty much exhausts a lot of our similarities here. And then one of the other difficulties is that there are some case endings that in the third declension are completely different cases from what we see in first and second declension. For example, the dative singular is long I, that's genitive singular in nominative and neuter, and it's nominative singular in the masculine. So I don't know if I said nominative and neuter. I mean genitive singular in masculine and neuter, and it's a nominative plural in masculine. All right. So we have to watch out for these sorts of things. So do be careful and keep the chart handy, and more than anything, memorize your case endings. That will help you. All right. So let's just read through these now. So here we have merit or virtue or worth, virtus, virtutis, virtuti, virtutem, virtute. So merit, of merit, to merit, for merit, merit, with merit. Virtutes, virtutum, virtutibus, virtutes, virtutibus. And then homo, homo, hominis, homini, hominem, homine, homines, hominum, hominibus, homines, hominibus. And then last, we have this neuter form. Notice that the neuter will match in nominative and accusative forms here, okay? All right, so let's read that, and you can repeat after me. Corpus, corporis, corpori, corpus, corpore, corpora, corporum, corporibus, corpora, corporibus. Okay. Let's quickly talk about the gender of third declension nouns. Third declension nouns will follow a principle of natural gender. So if a noun has a natural gender, that is, if it's inherently male or female, that will determine its grammatical gender. So a rex is a king, and therefore that's going to be a masculine noun. Uxor is a wife, that is a woman. So that natural gender will make it feminine grammatically as well. Okay. Now, some the other sorts of things that don't have natural gender, though, it's often hard to tell the difference. You can't tell just by looking at them usually, and you can't tell by thinking about what the word means, because there may not be any inherent male or female qualities to them because they're not naturally gendered. So we have some helps here for the gender of nouns that don't have any natural gender. But remember, the natural gender rule always takes precedence over the following generalities. Okay, but in the following general cases, you can usually tell the gender of a third declension noun if the noun, and here I'm talking about the lexical form of the noun, the dictionary form of the noun, the nominative singular, not the stem, which is what you get when you chop off the ending, right? If the noun in its lexical form ends in a particular way. Masculine, nouns that end in er and or, typically, those are masculine. And as Wheelock notes, our agent nouns ending in or, and here the O of or in the nominative form is a shortened form of the long O, which is seen throughout the paradigm, except in the nominative singular. It shortens to short O before the R. These fall under this category. So actor and actoris is one who does an action, right? In this case, one who acts, an actor. Victor and victoris, one who overcomes, or a victor. Now, this isn't mentioned in Wheelock, but other third declension nouns could be masculine when they end in os, nis, gis, kis, ace, and x. And here, third declension noun with ace, its genitive will end with itis, and with x, it'll be ikis. All right. Now, for feminine, nouns that end in S, O, or X in their lexical form. And so we use these helpful mnemonics: error for er and or, socks for SOX. So the abstract nouns that Wheelock notes fits this pattern. So veritas, genitive veritatis is truth. Notice that ends with an S, right? Virtus, right? Virtutis, that ends with an S. Virtue, worth, manliness. Multitudo, that ends with a vowel, right? O, part of the SOX rule. And multitudinis, multitude or numerousness. And then natio and nationis. Here we have a birth, race, or nation, but that ends with O as well. Okay, so that's the SOX principle. And then neuters, nouns ending in lancet, lancet, are typically neuter. And then aside from these, other neuter nouns could end with ar and us, where the genitive is ris. You got the is ending here. The R is part of the noun stem. Clearly, with that kind of a genitive, this is not a second declension masculine noun. Okay, we have second declension masculine us nouns like amicus, and the genitive singular is amici, right? You see the long I with genitive singular. Here, we're dealing with is for these us nouns. So these are third declension us nouns, not second declension us nouns, and those are neuter. Okay, so we have some of the nouns that Wheelock points out here. Animal, animalis, for animal. Mare, maris for sea. Nomen, nominis for name. Exemplar and exemplaris for model or pattern. So you see these, here's the L of lancet. Here's the E of lancet. Here's the N of lancet. Okay, and then I mentioned AR here, exemplar, and then genus and generis for origin or type. Here's one of those us nouns, and corpus and corporis for body. Okay, now I'll just mention one thing here, and Wheelock mentions this as well. Notice that the O here is short. Okay, this O is part of the stem corpor, and there we've got a short O. With amor, the masculine third declension noun, its O in the cases after the nominative are long O. So amor, amoris, amori, right? Long O. Here it shortens in the nominative with corporis. Notice that is a short O in the genitive. So these are different genders. Okay, now just some encouragement here. There's no need to memorize all these patterns. The natural gender rule follows first, then the error, socks, lancet generalities get you most cases for gender. Most important thing here, learn the gender of nouns as you memorize your new nouns. And as you memorize your new nouns, not only learn the gender, but learn the genitive singular that you're given. That will tell you whether it's a third declension noun or a first or second declension noun. Last thing here is that we need to talk about noun-adjective agreement. As we learned in earlier chapters, attributive adjectives must agree with their nouns in three ways: case, gender, and number. Frequently, that means that the endings of the noun and its adjective will look the same if the noun and adjective follow the same declension pattern. But, this is a big but here, but the noun could follow a different declension pattern from the adjective, even though they are matching in case, gender, and number. Okay? When that happens, okay, they're matching case, gender, and number. Their forms are matching as to grammar, okay, but their forms endings do not visibly look identical. And I've got some examples here I want to just walk through with you. So here we have magnus amicus. We're following the same declension, This is second declension, this is second declension, and this is nominative masculine singular, right? Now, I have nominative masculine singular for the next column as well, but these follow different declension patterns. Magnus is a second declension adjective when it's masculine, but rex is a third declension masculine noun. So they follow different declension patterns. Notice that Magnus amicus, they match case gender number and also visibly look the same. Magnus rex, they also match case gender number. They're both nominative masculine singular, but they don't look the same on the end because they're following different declension patterns. Magnus rex. Okay, now for the second set, I have genitive masculine singular. Magni, amici. Notice that we have both matching form, case gender number, and they visibly look the same. But Magni regis do have the same case gender number, but they don't visibly look the same, do they? And that's because they're following different declension patterns. Magni regis. Magna amica, nominative feminine singular. Notice that they rhyme at the end, they look visibly the same, and they have the same grammatical form too. Magna amica, the good friend, girlfriend. But virtus is feminine, okay? And magna matches its gender in case, gender number, but they don't look the same on the end because magna or a first declension and virtus is a third declension form. Okay, so they are both feminine and nominative singular, but they don't look the same because they follow different declension patterns. And then the last one, I have, I should have put 1 and 1 over here, right? Magnam amicam. Here we have because this is accusative feminine singular, and they look the same visibly as well. In the different declension column, magnam virtutem are both accusative feminine singular. They sort of look the same, but they're not exactly the same visibly, though, because the first declension accusative case ending here is actually a different form from the third declension case ending here. Okay. All right. So, well, we have to just watch out for that. Thanks.